Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fradbc Died Laughing and I'm here with my weekly wrap up. So I read 3 books this week, not as much as I normally do, but I was pretty busy this week and my routine was changed slightly, so I didn't do as much reading as I normally do. Before I get into the books that I did read, I just wanted to remind people about a video I put up during the week, which was my Bark Along readathon announcement. So this is just a kind of a readathon / read along based around dog books, and I am going to be doing a week the end of September, the start of October, where I read books about dogs, and I am inviting anyone who wants to join in. So please go. I will leave a link to that video if you have not already seen it, and that I'll just say the dates and the challenges and stuff like that, and there is some bonus doggy content in that with my dogs, so please go and check that out if you haven't done it already. So the first book that I read this week was The Pearl Thief by Elizabeth Wein. This can be read as a standalone, but it's also a slight prequel to Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wein, as it follows one of the main characters in that, and that is Julie. And in this, Julie is at home. She's gone back to her grandfather's estate in Scotland, and her grandfather recently died and he was in a lot of debt, so his estate has been sold off bit by bit, and it's kind of becoming a boarding school for boys instead, and this is kind of her last summer. Her family and her grandmother, it's all their last summer in this house. And she kind of ends up, the very first day she arrives, she ends up getting hit on the head and becomes unconscious for a few days. And so the entire book is kind of her still trying to figure out what happened to her that day, because she can't really remember it. There's also this mystery around these pearls, obviously it's called The Pearl Thief, and Julie ends up teaming up with these 2 children from a traveller family, and the police keep trying to blame basically the travellers for everything, even though they didn't do it obviously. But Julie, her brother Jamie, and these 2 kids from the travelling family end up kind of teaming up together to try and figure out what is going on. This one was just so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I loved seeing Julie in a different environment than what I had previously seen her in Codename Verity, because in Codename Verity it is about a woman who is being interrogated by the Germans, and that is obviously Julie. So in this one, she is not in a World War II situation. She's not in a situation where she is captured and being interrogated by the Germans, and we are seeing her free and wild and happy and lovely, just as we kind of imagined she would be. So I really loved seeing her so happy and so free in this one, and seeing a Julie before kind of the war, I wouldn't say wore her out, but kind of maybe made her grow up a little bit. And this one, she is still, she's still quite innocent in a way that 15-16-year-old girl can be, and I just really enjoyed being back with her, and I definitely just want to read everything Elizabeth Wein has written. I do know she has a few other kind of World War II novels that are loosely linked into Codename Verity, so I am definitely going to give them a go. I think I might get them on audiobook, because I did really enjoy Codename Verity on audiobook. But yeah, I really enjoy this, and I think anyone who just likes a sense, a YA adventure kind of story that's a little bit of a mystery and with just really great characters, I would suggest picking this up. As well as anyone who liked Codename Verity, because I think they would really enjoy seeing Julie in another setting. The one thing I would say about this book is that there were a couple of relationships in it, and there was one with an older man, and I just felt like that didn't necessarily need to be in it, because I felt like at times it was a little bit forced, but overall I did enjoy the other relationships that were seen in the book as well. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished is this beautiful book, A Jigsaw of Fire and Stars by Yaba Badoe, and this is a book I was sent to by Zephyr / Head of Zeus in exchange for an honest review, and I'm going to have a full review up for this on Tuesday, so I'm obviously not going to talk too much about it right now, but what I will say is I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it is about a girl called Sante who was found on a beach by a woman in this kind of chest full of jewels and different things. She was mysteriously found on this beach by this woman called Mama Rose, and Mama Rose took her in and raised her, and now Sante travels with Mama Rose and the rest of her family in a travelling circus kind of around Europe, and they eventually come to this town in Spain, and they meet people who Sante seems to think might be linked to her past and what happened to her as a baby, and what happened to her real parents, and she kind of ends up unlocking this kind of mystery, and there's also a lot of magical realism in this book as well, because Sante has some kind of unique magical powers, and so do a few of the other people that are in the travelling circus, and that's kind of what makes their performances so amazing. And I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I will talk more about it in my video review. The last book I completed this week was Fierce Kingdom by Phillips. This is the book I got off NetGalley in exchange for an honest review, and guys, oh my god. I started this book on Friday night at about 11 o'clock, and I thought, oh, I will, I requested during the week because I saw it on, I think it was Bookable's channel, she was talking about it, and I said that sounded really good. I went to go and request it. I managed to get it on my Kindle, and then I decided to read the first few chapters on Friday night, and then it was 2:30 in the morning and I was finishing it. So I read it in one complete go. I just could not put this book down. This book is about a woman called Joan who is in the zoo with her young son Lincoln, and then something happens where she ends up having to run for her life with Lincoln and find a safe place in the zoo for herself and her son. And you basically follow Joan through a couple of, I think it's 2 or 3 or 4 really tense hours in this zoo as she tries to keep herself and Lincoln safe. And this book is just freaking terrifying. Oh my god, I was just like a shaking ball of nerves when I read this book. Like, I was kind of rocking back and forth at one point, like, we're reading, because I was just so scared of what was going to happen next. And like, I hate when books do that, and I love when books do that, like, because obviously it's not a really nice feeling, but when a book can kind of make those reactions come out of you, you know, like, it's a really well written book, like, it's a book that is getting the desired effect. There was just something about the whole setting of this really horrible situation happening in a zoo, and it's like, it's a big space, but it's also an enclosed space, so everyone is still like completely trapped, and there's just something about that really scared me. And I just kind of felt like they were, like, you know, what's the word, like sitting ducks in a way, and I was just like, any moment I was just waiting for something terrible to happen to Joan, and I was just like, I was just like on the edge of my seat. I did see some mixed reviews of this, and I think some people were talking there are parts in this book where there are flashbacks, and we also see parts in the book that are from a different point of view. And I liked and disliked the flashbacks. There were some that went on a little bit too long for me and kind of took me too much out of the story, but then I also felt like some of the flashbacks served a really good purpose of helping you relax a little bit, because you're a little bit out of the situation, that really tense environment, and it gives you just kind of that chance to get a breather as a reader, and you know, you're not so wound up. So by the time you're back in the current situation with the characters, you've kind of had a chance to just calm down a little bit, and you know, you're back to kind of worrying about them, but you're probably not as wound up as you were previously, and that's what I found for me anyway. So I did find those flashbacks and different perspectives and stuff really handy. And there was one perspective, one point of view from one male character which I thought was really clever, because it just took a twist and I didn't see it coming, and I was just like, wait, what? And I had to go and reread like half of that section again to make sure I'd read it properly, and I really liked the fact that the book made me have to go and do that. I really enjoyed that as well. There was a point in this book as well where Joan is thinking about different things that have happened around the world, like where bad things have happened basically, and she talks about flooding in Texas and how people have died in this Texan flooding. And I just thought that was really weird with everything that's going on in Houston at the moment, and that there has been so much flooding and people have died in that, and there was just something about that. It was just like one of these weird coincidences in the book, that it kind of made the story almost more real, because it was suddenly kind of current even in our world, if you know what I mean. So I was just like, oh wow, like that's weird, and it just made it kind of become more realistic for me, which was also not that much of a good thing, because as I said, the book is really scary. Also, I will say, because this is happening in a zoo, I ended up imagining, like, for the entire kind of book, I kept thinking of Dublin Zoo in Ireland, like my zoo that I go to all the time, and that almost, I think, made things even more vivid for me and more scary, because I kept thinking of like the places in the zoo. Like, I kind of was thinking like, oh, like if this happened in Dublin Zoo, like what would I do, and where would I hide, where would I go? And it kind of like, it was like, it kind of almost like is on the verge of like upsetting you, because you're like, you don't want to be ever have to think like that, but because, you know, you are kind of imagining when she's talking about different things and different enclosures and stuff, you are thinking, for me, I was thinking about those enclosures and how Dublin Zoo is laid out, and you know, I just couldn't help but keep picturing what was happening in the book as happening in Dublin Zoo. So yeah, it was just one of those things that like just really brought a whole, like, you know, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. It just made it become really alive for me. And again, that wasn't the best thing in the world, because it terrified me. So yeah, but I will say I did really enjoy this book. I would say I normally have a problem with thrillers where I'm not always keen on that kind of cheesy epilogue that always happens at the end, where people are like, oh look how lovely and fine our lives are after this terrible event that happened. Where with this one, I actually would have liked that. Like, I think it wrapped up really well, but there's a part of me that would have liked either some kind of epilogue like that, or maybe even a news report about what had happened, and maybe just some more details and stuff like that. I just think that would have worked really well in this particular situation. But yeah, but I did really enjoy the ending. I did enjoy the book as a whole. As I said, I read it in one go in 3 hours, I think. 3.5 hours I had it completely finished. And yeah, I would really recommend this book. It's a little bit scary, but you know, a lot of thrillers tend to be like that. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it and tell people to give it a go. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And those are all the books that I completely finished this week. And as I said, like for me, 3 books is like, oh, I'm like, I should have finished like at least 5 books. And I know 3 books is good, but I am obviously currently reading a few different books. I'm still going with Anna Karenina. This book is like my mountain. It's like my Everest. I'm here. I'm at like part 3. At the end of part 3, I'm on chapter 20 of part 3, 300 pages in, and yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm getting through it. I'm not like in love with the story. Maybe it's because I'm listening to it, and I'm listening to it like sporadically, I don't know, but we'll see as I get a bit further in. Like, the characters aren't overly endearing themselves to me like right now. And then I also have a big book on the go as well, and that is 4321 by Paul Auster, and I am 100 pages into this. I want to try and get to maybe 250 pages today, because I want to try and just read bits of this every day, because it is a very chunky book, and I'm not going to be able to carry it around with me. And yeah, so I have enjoyed the first 100 pages. I kind of like the way this is about someone's life and all the different ways their lives could have gone, so it's like different versions of their life, but the way it is that you could be reading one chunk and then you'll read another bit and something has really subtly changed, and I really like that. Like, you kind of have to keep being like, wait, what? But in like a good way. And I've quite liked it so far, so I'll see how it goes, because I'm only 100 pages into an 800 page book, so yeah. And the book I am very actively reading is The Waking Land by Callie Bates, and I'm really enjoying this. This is like a YA fantasy. So that's everything I've read, everything I'm currently reading. Please let me know what you guys think, what you guys are reading at the moment, and I'll see you guys again next time.